This episode of Misconceptions is brought to you by Audible. Audible.com is the #1 leading host of audiobooks for your listening entertainment and enjoyment. Sign up today using my vanity URL for a 1-month free trial and a free audiobook of your choosing. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow reptiles, to Misconceptions of Depression. Last month I did a video titled Misconceptions of Ebola, and today we're going to be tackling the very difficult topic known as depression and some misconceptions and myths of depression. For those of you who don't know, I have struggled with depression ever since age 16. I was diagnosed with this mental illness. Despite me taking medication and working my way through it, depression is a real battle and struggle that people face every single day of their lives. Depression is one of those silent killers, and it's something that needs to be talked about more on this social platform. However, when speaking about depression, there are often very negative connotations that go along with it. There are stereotypes, most of all, there are misconceptions, facts that are not actual facts. They're misconceptions. Today, we're going to be taking a look at what exactly those are. I often hear from people who don't struggle with this silent killer is that depression is not real, or it's not a real illness. This is one of those assertions which is completely unfounded within the realm of science. Not only has depression been found to be an actual physical mental illness, but there have been thousands of scientific studies and scientific journals which has documented it, and people who have went under study and research of their blood work that has shown that the people who have depression have chemical imbalances within their brain. If one can go to the doctor and get diagnosed with something, a mental illness, can get medication for that mental illness, is struggling with their life because of that mental illness, no doctor in their right mind would ever decline and say that depression isn't a real thing. Why would you, the person who does not struggle with the silent killer, say that it's not real? While it is true that women are twice as more likely to suffer from this mental illness, men too also suffer from depression. That being said, no one should have to suffer through this silent killer. It is often said in our society that men who cry aren't real men, or men who show any sort of emotion, who are not these macho men who have brick emotions, who don't show feelings, who are lack any sort of sensitivity, are not real men. The same misconception goes for depression. I've often heard people who don't struggle with depression say to men or even women that you're not a real man if you have depression. This couldn't be further from the truth, and there is nothing to be ashamed of if you have this mental illness. You are no less of a man or less of a woman if you have a mental illness, and you should not be degraded or let someone devalue you simply based upon something that you're struggling with. My question to the person saying that you're not a real man is what actually determines a real man? Our societal expectations and cultural standards that we've created, which are really wrong in of themselves and don't hold any really truth to them. You and me both know that we live in a society that likes to tell people how they should act and how they should be, when in reality, it's what you want to be and how you want to act that should matter. There are certain days of the years where I become overwhelmingly sad. These sad days of the years are not because I choose to be this way, but rather due to my past experiences and past pain of losing a loved one or someone close to me. One of the biggest misconceptions not only deals with self-diagnosing yourself of depression, but understanding that you are feeling temporarily sad because of the situations that have happened in your life currently. That sadness, although it's temporal, is not the same thing as something as like depression. While it is true that you can have sadness and have depression, it's very important to understand the differentiation between sadness and depression. As depression is more of a struggle/permanent thing that you actually need help with, while sadness is more of a temporal thing due to your circumstances in your life. There are many different types of antidepressant medications. My first medication that I took was Zoloft, and it actually had the opposite effect. A really important thing to understand about this is that all these different medications affect people's brain chemistry differently. One of the most common misconceptions is that the moment you take that medication, you're automatically going to feel better and that you're no longer going to be depressed. This couldn't be further from the truth, as usually the medication takes between 5 to 6 weeks to even apply it into your brain and change that brain chemistry in a more positive, influential way. But even if that medication does in fact help you, that not every medication that you take is going to have that exact same effect on a person. Furthermore, if you're someone who takes antidepressants, there is no shame in having that. Often people don't want to take this medication simply because of the shame of being reliant upon some medication. While I do understand that the medication is helping you in a positive way, that medication should be taken for not only for your own mental health, but for the mental health of others that you are constantly being around, because of how you act and how you are with your depressed state will also affect and rub off on other people. So if the medication deems out something that helps you, it is recommended that you take that until that depression can either go away or you can get more proper help for it. In some cases, taking antidepressants for a certain duration of a time will actually make your depression and change the chemical imbalance where you will no longer need medication ever. Some people only need medication for a duration of a year, some people need it for longer, some people need it for the rest of their lives. It all changes based upon the person who is taking that medication. This one by far is in fact the most frequent, is that you and me both choose to be depressed. Along with, and this usually blends in with the same depression isn't real, along with depression is a choice. You and me choose to be this way, we choose to be miserable, we choose to be sad, we choose to be in this black hole of self-pity, when in reality that couldn't be further from the truth. I've really never understood this assertion because it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Why would you and me choose to be in such a miserable state? A state where sometimes we can't even get out of bed, a state where we feel so miserable and hate ourselves so much that we want nothing to do with the reality and world around us. We have no ability to go out and exercise. We either become anorexic or we overeat. We become physically sick. What benefit is there for choosing to be this way? Even if depression was a choice, there is no benefit. The negative connotations that we get from the people around us, from labeling us and saying that we're choosing to be this way, that we're only doing this because we want attention, or that we're only doing it because it's a fad. I'm not sure if anyone remembers the Urban Outfitters, or I think it was Abercrombie. It was one of those companies that made a shirt that said, "Depression is the new fad." These types of damaging negative connotations that we choose to be this way not only harms us and furthers us down this silent killer, but it makes it so that you and me are afraid to come out and tell people that we have depression and to get help from it because of the negative stigmatizations that people put on us, that it's a choice, that it's done for attention, that real men don't have depression, that depression is the new fad. Your depression doesn't define you. Other people don't define you. You are no less valuable for having depression. You are no less respectable. You are a human being who has a silent killer, a struggle, as I like to describe it, the dark night of the soul. There is hope and there is a way out. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching this video. This has been my video on misconceptions of depression. The misconceptions that I listed are by far some of the more big common misconceptions of depression. However, I know there are a lot more that I could have mentioned. However, feel free to leave a comment down below listing those other smaller misconceptions that people have regarding this mental illness. My name is Daniel Solzbach, also known as Mr. Repzion. If you use my vanity URL down below, audible.com/Mr. Repzion, you can get a 1-month free trial of audible.com along with a free audiobook. Audible.com has a wide selection of actual mental health books on how to deal with anxiety, certain disorders, and even depression. I would highly recommend using my vanity URL if you want to pick up a great book on depression. Hope this video was helpful in some way and beneficial to you. By all means, please share this video with people who don't have depression or for people who stigmatize depression in a negative way. They need to see this video.